Welcome to the First Player Token Podcast, a short podcast for folks who enjoy playing board games with family and friends. I'm your host, Derek Bruff. In this episode, we travel to 17th century Japan for some competitive vacationing in Tokaido. As I record this in July 2021, the Summer Olympics are taking place in Tokyo, Japan. I love watching the Olympics, especially the sports that don't make the NBC primetime coverage, like archery and cycling and canoeing. I'm not good at any of those sports, but they're fun to watch. This episode's board game recommendation also involves Japan and competition, but no sports. Instead, it's a game about something I could actually meddle in, competitive vacationing. Tokaido is a 2012 game designed by Antoine Bauza, with art by Xavier Durin, and published by Funforge. Players take on the role of travelers in 17th century Japan, making their way along the Tokaido, which means Eastern Sea Road. The Tokaido was an important route during the Edo period in Japan, connecting the cities of Kyoto and Edo, which is modern-day Tokyo. It was a coastal route, and thus popular with travelers. In the game, you travel that route, stopping along the way to do relaxing or interesting things like painting landscapes, visiting hot springs, shopping for souvenirs, and enjoying good meals. The game is beautiful, with a long, elegant board depicting the road from Kyoto to Edo. The board is sparsely but charmingly illustrated, with lots of relaxing white space and just a hint of the ocean next to the route. Each player takes on the role of a particular traveler, randomly distributed at the start of the game. There's Hiroshige the artist, and Kinko the ronin, and Setsuki the orphan, among many others. These characters look like they stepped out of a Disney movie, each with a colorful depiction on a sturdy character card. Each player has a token representing their traveler that they move along the road during the game, visiting some of the 53 spaces marked along the route. Why 53 spaces? Well, Wikipedia tells me that the real Tokaido featured 53 government-sanctioned rest stops, called shakuba, that featured food and lodging. In the game Tokaido, the spaces represent different vacation activities for your traveler, each of which earns points in a different way. The winner of the game, that is, whoever scores the most points, is thus the traveler who had the most relaxing and interesting vacation. After all, what have Facebook and Instagram taught us, if not that we should strive to have a better vacation than our peers? Apparently, 17th century Japan also had a FOMO problem. Some of the stops along the way let you earn points using a mechanism often called set collection. For instance, there are panoramas that let you paint one of 3 different landscapes. The first time you paint a landscape of a certain type, you score 1 point. The second time you paint that same landscape, you score 2 points. The third time, 3 points, and so on. The more of the same landscape you paint, the more you score. At the villages, however, you want to collect different kinds of things. Souvenirs, like food and clothing and art. The first one you collect is worth 1 point, but if the second one is a different type, say art instead of food, it's worth 3 points. The third different type of souvenir is worth 5 points, and so on. That's how set collection works. You collect sets of cards representing your experiences, and different sets score in different ways. One of my favorite stops is the hot springs, where a visit is worth 2 points, or 3 points if you happen to draw a hot springs card showing a snow monkey. Because, frankly, seeing a snow monkey in a hot springs is something you would write home about. 4 of the stops are inns, equally spaced along the route, and required stops for all travelers. Everyone has to eat and sleep, of course. There are a selection of meals available at each inn, each worth a whopping 6 points, but some cost more coins than others, and here's the real catch, you can't have the same meal twice. Who would want to do that on a vacation? As pretty and thematic as Tokaido is, what really drives the game is the way movement happens. Everyone is on the same road, and it's the player at the back of the pack that moves next. When moving, you can travel as far ahead on the road as you want to an open spot, but if you move too far ahead, maybe to that next panorama to complete one of your landscape paintings, you'll miss opportunities to earn points along the way. In that respect, the game feels a bit like actual vacationing, since I find I'm always making tough choices about how to spend our time on the road. Do we stay longer in the national park to hike and see a waterfall? Or hit the road and hope to see some wild horses before dark? Choices, choices. Since all the players are on the same road, jockeying for the same spots, Tokaido can get pretty competitive. For instance, there aren't many ways to earn coins in the game, which you need to buy souvenirs or pay for meals at the inn. If you know a fellow player is running short on money, you might stop at the farm, which is where you can work in the fields to earn 3 coins, just to block that other player. Or, as another example, consider the inn. The first player to get there gets first choice of the available dinners, so arriving first can guarantee you get those 6 points from eating a good meal. But it also means you're last to leave the inn the next day, sleeping off that good meal, no doubt, so you have fewer choices for your first move out. That said, Tokaido never feels too cutthroat. If someone takes the stop you want to visit, there's always another stop up ahead, and all of the stops give you something useful. They're no harmful stops. I have a bit more to say about Tokaido, but first let's hear from our international travel correspondent with her thoughts on this relaxing game. Well, thanks for coming back on the podcast. Mm-hmm. What game are we looking at right here?
We're looking at Tokaido.
Tokaido.
I think.
Yeah. It's a little hard to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what is this game all about?
It's about having a really fun trip, and you're supposed to go from the first hotel to the very last hotel. And you're supposed to try to get, to see travelers and do paintings and get coins and get food and get just anything at all.
Yeah. Is this the kind of trip that you like to take? Do you like to do these things when you go on trips?
Yes, I like to see people from different states I've never met before.
Yeah.
And I like to get souvenirs, and especially I really like doing it at hotels. But just hotels are just like my favorite part about the whole trip.
You do like to visit hotels. Yeah. And do you remember when we played last time, you were this character, right? Satsuki.
This character.
And what happens with Satsuki when she goes to the hotel?
So when she goes to the hotel, I really like her power because I love hotels. I wish I had this power. Since she's so cute, is what we say. She gets so we just draw a card. Well, we draw a card for food.
Uh-huh.
And since she's so cute, she gets one thing for free.
That's right. She's a little girl. She's traveling by herself. Well, she's got a cat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she gets a free meal at the hotel. Because she's so cute. So what happens, I want to go back to the hotels. What else happens at the hotels that we like to do when it's time to go and start the next day of traveling?
So we also sleep.
Right, you sleep at the hotel.
Since we're all lined up,
Yeah.
I just knock over one character and then they all fall asleep.
Yep. And then what happens when it's time to go in the morning?
You say cock-a-doodle-doo.
Cock-a-doodle-doo! And then we get going. Well, so why do you like this game?
I like this game because, you usually play music of it.
Yeah, what kind of music do I play? Do you know where this game takes place? Do you remember? Yeah?
Chinese?
Nope. Japan.
Japan.
Yeah, so I play
Japan.
nice, relaxing Japanese music.
Uh-huh.
Do you know every part of this game? Do you think you could teach someone else how to play this game?
Yes.
I think you could too.
Yeah.
I have one more question for you. Did you know that there is an expansion for this game?
What? But this game is already so big.
Right? Do you think I should get the expansion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
I'll look into that. I think we'd have a lot of fun. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts about Tokaido. Yay. As you can tell, we're a big fan of Tokaido in this house. And as you heard, I like to play a little relaxing music while we play. I recommend the Japanese Garden playlist from Spotify. Tokaido can play between 2 and 5 players. With just 2 players, you use a neutral token, We use the gray one, and we call him Mr. Gray. And players can use that to block locations from other players. With 4 or 5 players, a few more spots open up on the map, giving players more room to visit locations. This means the game plays well at all player counts. The box says the game is for ages 8 and up, but I find younger players can still enjoy the game with a bit of help. There's no reading required and just a bit of number sense needed, not even arithmetic. How long does a game of Tokaido last? That depends on how much you enjoy yourself along the way, but usually between 30 minutes and an hour. That's it for this episode of the First Player Token Podcast. See the show notes for more info and photos of Tokaido, as well as a link to the podcast's Facebook and Twitter handles. And if you have a minute, please share this or any other episode on your social media platform of choice. That goes a long way to helping new listeners find us. I've been your host, Derek Bruff. Thanks for listening. Now it's time to play some games.
You say cock-a-doodle-doo.
Cock-a-doodle-doo! Then we get going.